Pine, and welcome back to another, I guess, shot at the office hours concept here. Hold on a second. This camera lens looks a little dirty. Sorry about that, folks. Hey, good morning, everybody. I've got an hour before my lessons start, and I thought I would come down here and start rocking and rolling and seeing if anybody had any questions or wanted to talk about anything. And at the very least, I thought, I'll warm up before my 10, 11, 12, 1, and 2 o'clock lessons. And then I'm done for the day, which is great. I have a nice short day. I'm currently playing on my 335. This is some people have asked questions about maybe sharing some more information about the gear that I'm using when I make music. This is a 1966 Gibson ES335 in Sunburst. It used to have a Bigsby. You can tell by that little tiny dot, that little beauty mark there. And but it originally came with this trapeze setup, and but at one point in time it must have worn a Bigsby. It is all original, with the exception of having once had its tuners replaced, and you can see there's a set of extra holes, these tiny holes. And these guitars were, at the time that I acquired it, quite cheap, because they are unfavored generally because they have roughly the same nut width as a Strat, but that never bothered me. This is like 1 9/16, so just a little bit less than a Strat, and so it can be a little cramped for sausage fingered folk. But I have pretty skinny fingers, and it just sounds great. This guitar is a really good sounding instrument. I like a nice medium kind of action. Some people have said, like my tech, for example, Matt Brewster, shout out 30th Street Guitars forever. Anyway, he always gives me my guitars with the action too low for my taste. When I dig in, like hard, whenever I get the guitars back from Matt, they usually chatter, so when I dig in hard, they kind of slap up against the frets, and that's a sound that I tend to avoid. But his rationale is he gets it as low as possible with light picking, and then he allows my picking dynamics to dictate how high up I raise a thing, because better to have the ability to go low and not need it than to need it and not have it, okay? So I also have small hands. Is it advised to stick with a bit lower action? I've never found the neck, my action to be required to be anything different because I have small hands. I don't even have really smaller hands. I just don't have big fingers. Like I have a pretty good reach because of training myself over the last 5 or 10 years. You see this move right here? This is something a lot of younger players don't explore. And this, for a long time, I was taught, 1 finger per fret, and I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But the more I started playing some other styles of music, it became more apparent that actually this is preferable to this. So 1, 2, 3 rather than 1, 3, 4. And the rationale behind this is somewhat physiological, in that the 3rd and 4th fingers share a tendon, if I'm not mistaken. So constantly asking these guys to trill is asking like a constant relay race where somebody's passing a baton back and forth between 2 people. When it's like this, each one of them has their own tendon. So 1, 2, 3, each one of them has their own individual pathway to the musculature, as opposed to having to kind of go your turn, my turn. So these two can sometimes, so toggling back and forth between these two is never advisable. If you can figure out a fingering that's like this or like this, you're better off than any time finding this fingering, okay? Also, funny enough, when you put your ring finger down here, it limits how far up your pinky can go, right? But if I put my middle finger down, I get an extra fret out of the pinky. So oddly enough, the hand is more flexible like this than like that. Ouch, because of this piece of webbing that connects these two. But if I do that, the entire hand can kind of go, hello. So this idea of getting this is the starting point, is getting this little lick together. So out of G major, and doing something where we're doing, where we would do that, where we go, that kind of thing, where we're seeing the 2 and the 3 of G major connected. That kind of thing. Let me get out of this high gain setup, and I was playing some Goose this week, and I kind of needed it to get through some of Arcadia, which is a hell of a song. If you guys haven't, if the jam band folk out there have any say in this thing, I think that Rick from Goose is just about as good as a jammy guitar player can be. Kind of like a great mix between Trey and I don't know, Robin Ford or something like that. Really, really exceptionally talented musician. So as far as action is concerned, I wouldn't sweat it if you have dainty, smaller fingers or whatever like that at all. Not an issue in my opinion. You look at those pictures of those little Chinese and Korean kids playing. They're like 5 years old, and they're handling everything that we would dream of being able to handle. So let's see about this setting. Let's get to a sound that I was working with lately. I'm working on my broke down. So like a little tremolo. Let's see about that. I think I pulled out a tune. Yep. So how's everybody doing out there? Is everybody practicing? Anybody got any questions about how to approach something they're having trouble with, or if it's Grateful Dead themed, that's great. If you guys are just curious about anything to do with me, happy to share. Like I said, I'm seriously just down here anyway, and I figured, why not check in. I have trouble with subdividing once I reach something like 125 with the click track, specifically the picking drill you've taught up. Oh, from this. Well, that's not a bad thing. That just means you're hitting your top speed. So let's look at that for a second, right? We're looking at 125, right? That's going to be pretty ambitious. Especially, are you doubling it? Are you starting with quarters, eighths, and then sixteenths? So let's do 125 BPM. Let's see what that sounds like. Boom. Okay, it's just going to play probably some commercials for YouTube, and then we'll hear it. 125 is my top speed. Is that sad? That's sad? No, not at all. That's not bad at all. That's not bad. Not at all. That's not bad. The reason what's all that means to me is, okay, so Alex, can you tell me this? Do you have more trouble ascending or descending? Once you flip, are you having a harder time keeping up? Because I have that phenomenon. I can play this all the way up to like 150, but I cannot play the descending back to from 150. Absolutely not. So descending is more difficult, right? So in this inverted position, right? So okay, big deal. So what I would say is, if you want to just shore up your descending, okay, start here at the top and go. Right, and that's where you're going to get caught caught up, is those changes. That's where I get caught up every time. So if you start with that and practice the rotation, you have to include that part. If you just go, that's not so bad either. But the problem is, at that point, it's hard to find a loop. If you go, so. Practicing primarily the rotation and down, coming from getting a head of steam, rotate. And if you plateau at 125 for a while, you know what? Accept it. Deal with it. It's okay. Then what you do is literally just practice inching up bit by bit by bit. And you know what? If it took you 6 months to get to 135 and then another 6 months to get to 145, in a year you'd be shred. I mean, that's straight up shredding. So there isn't that much more usable technique past where you are, in my opinion. Unless you want to really be exploring super fast stuff. Okay. That's not to say you shouldn't be aspirational. So go for it, man. All right. Thank you. Good question, Alex. Anything else? Anybody got anything else on their plate? Seriously, just practice the harder part more than the good part, and ultimately they should even out more. Okay. Or you can just keep plowing ahead where you're just playing the whole exercise, but you'll be you'll be practicing less of the part that you're worse at, but that's okay. Not very much. I did get much better over the last week since I've been practicing that drill. Absolutely. It's worked wonders for most of my students, and I'm happy to see it being adopted by the folks here at the office hours. So yeah, I mean, the truth is that exercise, and then there's a couple of others that I make students tackle. One called the Gilbert, which should be no surprise to anybody here. That starts on a downstroke, plays, then comes under. This is Paul Gilbert's, well-known alternate picking drill. Great for practicing outside string changes. Okay. Then all you have to do is start the same drill on an upstroke, and then you're practicing inside string changes. All right. And then at that point, you've got the two main mechanics that you need to master, playing them back to back to back to back to back to back. The next stage is to look for an opportunity to have an exercise that combines both the outside string change and the inside string change, alternating every other one. And the way to come up with that is an exercise that I've dubbed "Go Fuck Your Mother," because every time I play it, that's what I say to the person that taught it to me. I will forever resent Charlie for teaching me this exercise. But that said, it is the single toughest, hardest, bestest exercise for getting your alternate picking chops together. Okay, so what we're looking for is 16th notes across the measure. So that's going to be think Eye of the Tiger. Let me ditch this delay. Hard to do. No, there's one. There we go. One more in there. Two delays on it. There it is. So if we're doing that, so we're looking at 1E and a 2, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, right? So we're going to go chromatically 3 notes per string. Okay? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So you can see that we're going outside string changes, inside string change, right? Outside, inside, outside, inside. Okay, so we're going 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 2 notes on the high E. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. Loops, okay? So the exercise loops. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1, 2, 3, wow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. 15, 20 minutes, and then finish my practice with jamming with backing tracks. Any other tips? Yeah, try finishing off with another 15 or 20 minutes, okay? The other thing you can practice is this. If you're working on your upstroke being weak, all right, and you and Alex, you and I are in remarkably similar places in terms of where our technique is weaker or stronger, all right? I'm much more confident and comfortable in this position doing, you know, than going backwards like that. I cannot do it. I'm like half power, okay? So don't be, first of all, no shame in being, you know, dominant in one position, okay? The trick is to shore it up. So my suggestion is that I really want to start learning how to play both lead and rhythm over just a click track, no backing track. It's tough. Absolutely it's tough, but we'll get to that, okay? First things first, let's talk about how to work on your upstroke, okay? So what you want to work on is 16th note upstroke attacks. Just getting that together. Okay, it's very uncomfortable to fight against gravity for me. Then we want to learn how to go fours on each one, or even 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2. All right, now I'm showing you my dirty laundry. Okay, this is literally where the bodies are buried in my own technique. This is where it's awful. Okay, so ticky 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 ticky. Just getting that together. All right, now if we go 16 on one, 16 on the other, go 4, then go 8, then go 4, then go 2. Like that. Because I can go going back and forth between the B and the E string, no problem. Okay, but going ticky tucky, ticky tucky, ticky tucky. Very tough for me. Okay, so that's what I'm aspiring to. Like when I'm down here sweating it out, that's what I'm doing. All right, when I'm not teaching, all right, that's what I'm. If I can rally, you know, but I'm kind of tired. It's what do they call it in London? I think they call it a busman's holiday. So the idea is the guy who drives the bus, the last thing he wants to do is go on vacation and get on a bus and go on a road tour. So kind of like your hairstylist having a terrible haircut or whatever, or your mechanic having a car that's busted up. This is my problem, okay? So I cannot do what you're talking about very well. So Alex, join the club. It's okay. So get your 8s, 16ths. I'm confident at alternate picking ascending, yes, but when I'm descending, my right hand naturally does something resembling economy picking. Absolutely. So what you need to do is slow it down and break the habit, and then when you actually onboard the proper way of doing it, okay, then you can actually look for opportunities to break the rule, okay. My tendency is to utilize some alternate picking and then on ascending, and to do economy on the way back too. But what I practice and what I play are two different things. I'm trying to acquire the alternate picking chops, but when I'm in the heat of the moment, I play whatever it takes to get it done. So let's look at the like I call it, the go fuck your mother exercise. This is going to teach you how to get better alternate picking chops. Start with these 3 fingers. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a. Okay. Now the way we get there is going 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Don't go. They're not triplets. It's not da ka da ka ka da ka ka da ka ka. It's 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Okay. So the way to get there is like this, where we go. Okay, now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, but we haven't dealt with doing the string change, okay? Now we're just going to bring that last note to the A string. And now what we're doing is basically practicing just the outside string change. Now let's fill up the A string and then go back to the A string. So that would be right like that. And now we're going to take that last note, put it on the D string, 5th fret. So now we've got an outside and an inside string change. Outside, inside. Now we're going to bring that to the D string. Now we can start trying to pour on the speed to get to that point. Okay, now let's try filling up the D string. And we do that so on and so on and so on. Okay, don't try to take on the entire "Go Fuck Your Mother" exercise. Okay, this is not safe for work title. Okay. Once you get it so that you can come all the way up and down at roughly 120 BPM. Okay, at that point, what I want you to do is practice that for 5 or 10 minutes a day, and then literally just shift to these 3 fingers. Same thing. Because after doing that much work, these guys are going to become more dominant. What you want to do is work on, like I said, this weaker bit of physiology here. It's not often that you'll be playing these 3 in a row, but it's nice to work up the weak side of things, okay? And at the same time, what you'll really be doing is hovering at this tempo for a little while longer for your right hand and give it a chance to actually bake in the muscle memory of the string changes of going 1, 2, 3, up and over the A string. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, inside. So 1, 2, 3, inside string change. So outside, inside, outside, inside. I can't do it and talk at the same time. It's just too much. Anyway, the cool news is once we get these 3 like this and 3 like that done in 16th notes, okay, now it's time for us to actually expand the scope of the exercise so that we're actually playing a scale. And the cool thing is, since we did 3 notes per string, we can take any of our 3 note per string modes, okay? So we could just start with the major scale. And we can run our modes and practice the same thing, the same exact right hand pattern will happen. And at that point now we're actually starting to not make music, but at least play something other than the purely coordinational. Like this is all just to coordinate the attack and this. But what I don't want you to do is worry about, you know, the fingers and stuff like that. Just do the brain-free stuff of going, just the chromatics, and then we'll bring in the actual scales. And then by that point in time, your right hand should be in much better shape. If you'll do what I say rather than what I do myself, you'll definitely accelerate. I am a terrible student, to be honest. I wish that I was younger and I got a hold of somebody who's like me today, telling me what to do. Because as much as I know, I didn't apply myself to my own technique as I was growing up, and consequently I feel like I was a late bloomer. A lot of the hard work that I've put in has been recently, actually in the last 15 years of playing. So I know recently sounds weird, but when you've been playing for 42 years, that's the back third of my guitar playing life. Okay, so those are the 3 exercises that I use over and over and over again. The chromatic one. Oh, thanks, man. Horror shtick. That's really cool about you saying that we were tight. That was our first show, and hopefully we'll be in even better shape next time we play. You know, the guitar player Colin and I, we have yet to kind of find our little formula, but I think in the end we're going to be a pretty terrifying little outfit. Get the background vocals together, maybe even buy some fancy pants lights so that when we play in places we actually have a little bit of a better visual, because right now it's kind of boring to watch that shit. The good news is we have that whole show, I think, multi-tracked, so what we'll probably end up doing, and filmed, we'll probably end up being able to post it on my channel here when we're done dealing with the mix and all that stuff. Nothing. I won't be able to get rid of the boo-boos. There's plenty of warts, but whatever. It was pretty good. But once we get the audio together, I will host it on my channel and ditch the live stream audio, which is really dreadful. Pardon my apologies for that. I am a stickler for nice audio, but somebody did ask for it, so I went for it anyway. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The 3 exercises, the 3 pillars of acquiring proper right hand picking, I think is this exercise, which then turns into pentatonics. Okay, if you do that, plus the Gilberts, all right, and this Go Fuck Your Mother exercise. I hope to see you live. Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being so positive there, sir. I do, and I hope to see you as well. So the idea of getting the Gilbert, the alternate picking with where we're kind of not having to rotate, and then finally graduating to the really busy exercise I just showed you. Maybe couple that with 1 or 2 cross-picking exercises from my stint as a bluegrass guitarist. This one right here, just literally taking the C chord and going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. This is a very difficult exercise to change directions after every string, okay? You can't do it in a downward pick slant, otherwise you're rotating too profoundly. You kind of have to take it neutral or maybe even upward. And just getting that together where you're doing that. Okay, the tendency is for you to develop a little bit too much of the card dealing motion I talk about that you want to avoid coming from the wrist. You want it to be more like where your whole hand is moving. Okay, if you do that and maybe add in a little bit of the cross picking where you're doing like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And those banjo rolls are really handy for doing things like stuff, which is lovely guitar to be able to play. To have that rolling, relaxed sound is really something beautiful. Okay, so questions, but have I ever to correct aspects of my because it felt natural but turned out to be you know, there are elements of my technique that I've definitely had to modify over the years. After a while of playing acoustic guitar, I learned how to do the gypsy jazz and you know, the what later became like economy picking, so going like down, 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 down. Those kind of double downs. I had to learn to not do it like this, which is proper acoustic technique, and learn how to do it like this. With my palm down, and I had to you know, and also that's why I really try to encourage electric students to not practice unplugged. Practice plugged into the guitar, because if you're, plugged into your amp, the way you relate to the amp is actually a huge element of being a good electric guitarist. All right. Now, granted, if you're like a pure jazzer, okay, maybe you can get away with that, but my take is that you need to know how to interact with the whole system. The entire instrument starts with your pick and kind of finishes with your speaker. Is the better way to look at it as an electric guitarist, in my opinion. Especially if you've got any kind of output, like gain going on. Now, learning how to control an amplifier is really good. God, can't even imagine ever being able to economy pick. It looks so hard. No, not at all. It's not hard at all. But what it is an exception rather than a rule, in my opinion, Alex. I would never encourage somebody to start doing this instead of. But when you think about it, you're learning one motion: down, down, up, down, down, up, instead of down, up, down, up, down, up. That's literally twice as much work. So it is more economical to go. So when you're looking at you have to practice it to a metronome and be very, very conscious of doing those big accents to make sure. Yes, exactly. Don't practice unplugged, because what you end up doing is creating this Herculean right hand that when you plug into an amp, all you're doing is creating these horrible transients. All right, that transient spike can be a real issue, especially if you're playing with the Garcia sound with a lot of high end and longer scale length and a brighter sound. So, learning how to back off of your right hand picking pressure and still have a nice firm tone is a great thing to be able to. So that way, if you're playing like, right, where you've got a little bit of headroom left in there, right? Let's get a little bit more brilliance out of that back pickup. Okay, there it is. Sure if anybody recognizes that melody, but Ship of Fools is a great tutorial for learning how to play bends as part of the melody. It's kind of an advanced version of what I teach when I teach Casey Jones, which is, we've got that, so we got, right? What was it? So we're bending through. Right. Having the control to get your pitch together with a bend is really, really important. All right. So if you want to take a more advanced study of that, you look at that lick I do in Ship of Fools, right? See how I'm doing that? Now I'm bent up, then I put my pinky down in the pre-bent like that, and that's a great little drill. And then a little pull off back to the root of F, right? So you get. Anyway, there's a nice little lesson on my channel for Ship of Fools if you want to get into that little lick and that technique. Also, I just happen to think that's a beautifully emotive song to play over. Plus, it has that great diminished chord in it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure what folks are into, or if anybody is even awake or on the ball to get here. Are you familiar with the opening like the SRBs? So excited at El Mocambo. Well, I mean, I've seen the whole El Mocambo show a lot. But I'm not sure what song is. I'm so excited. That song I'm not so familiar with. So I'm definitely not going to be able to teach you the opening lick to that song because I don't know it by name. That said, that is arguably most awesome beginning to end solo, like, guitar performance I've ever witnessed. I don't think I've ever really seen anybody. I mean, you have to go to folks like, oddly enough, another Texan from Austin. I think that Eric Johnson, Austin City Limits, is pretty amazing. I mean, the thing that's messed up is as big as my heroes. Eddie Van Halen was one of my heroes growing up. I don't really have that much recorded live footage of Eddie that blows me away the same way that those guys did, and I think a great deal of that stems from, well, oddly enough, I think that Stevie Ray Vaughan had some substance abuse issues, but I don't think that Eric Johnson ever really played when he was too far gone. I know that Eddie was pretty much a functioning alcoholic and was drunk and having a party on stage, which, precision really wasn't part of it. The instrumental shuffle in A flat, I guess, or A, if you, yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple of them, but, a no is the answer to your question still, Alex. I'm not intimately familiar with whatever the shuffle is that's in A. But, I'm sure it's a doozy. I think SRV is one of those guys that, everybody should spend a little time figuring out how to conjure some of that energy. There's a visceral nature to what's happening within the right hand approach. So everybody needs to learn how to get that kind of that thing is a must-have technique in my opinion, right? Where you're kind of doing the whole strum, but you've got a lot of, right, all those rakes and pulling back. Now, granted, that's a Stones tune, but I'll often employ that for, that kind of slurred, mushy sound that he would get. I love that. So, like I said, I thoroughly encourage anybody who's interested in playing guitar to approach the right hand studies from Stevie Ray Vaughan. Tony Rice is another huge influence on me in terms of the right hand stuff, and that's where some of my economy picking and things like that came from. Django obviously had amazing right hand picking ideas, so looking into gypsy jazz picking styles was super influential. Garcia's approach to taking the melody is really what I took from him, and doing those 1 fret bends into the notes, and some of the studies of the enclosures and things like that, and kind of electrifying the bluegrass tradition. That whole approach is what I stole from him. Texturally, I think mostly along the lines of, my heroes are Lanois, The Edge, and Johnny Greenwood. I love that style of stuff, going all the way back to Unforgettable Fire era, U2, all the way up to say Wrecking Ball by Emmylou Harris. If nobody's ever checked that record out, it's really amazing. Some great songs on there. What else do I consider to be super influential? Obviously, Floyd, Dire Straits, for more measured, tasteful rock guitar playing. Those guys can't be touched. And then you have your more idiomatic things, just like strict blues, like your B.B. Kings or Albert Kings or Freddie King. That's a great starting point for that if you want to learn to get a little bit more intensity to your playing. And recent players that I like, I really like Matteo Mancuso. I think he's bonkers brilliant. And there's a lot of good players out there. But I having tried to make I don't know if I can really tried too much to make a splash as an internet guitar player, but it's kind of happening a little bit, a very little bit. The temptation obviously is to try to appear flawless, but that's just not the case. I mean, I am I am as riddled with faults and foibles and shortcomings as every player I encounter. It's just I have either figured out a way to kind of obscure them when I present my music, or have been funneling my own playing towards things that I do capably. So like I don't ask myself things that I can't do publicly anyway. I don't. Privately, I'll sit down and try to hash through some stuff. So that's something else. I'm not a jazz guy. I just do not like jazz guitar very much, or even I don't really like to listen to too much jazz. So and certainly playing minor 6 chords does not mean jazz. So anyway, I don't know if anybody has anything else to ask about, but one of the things that I think is kind of essential that people don't really recognize is how elemental the concept of having the ragtime thing together is. Okay, so this idea of having like how to utilize blue tones, okay, those blue notes in a way that we get the kind of rather than that kind of thing where we're getting those kind of it's a really nice tune that I learned from I did an album where I was the engineer for a guy named Dave Von Ronk, who was kind of a Bleecker Street folk guy back. He was somewhat contemporaneous with Bob Dylan, and apparently knew him and hung out with him quite a bit back in the Bleecker Street days. And he taught me this tune called it's called Hesitation Blues or something like that. And I remember him teaching me a little bit about how to get the Travis picking thing together, and he showed me a couple of ideas about like what we're looking for in terms of the harmony of it, and it was really helpful. So it's like A minor to E7, okay, then a little 2-5-1 into F, diminished, and then this little lick, and he kind of played it single notes, but I harmonized it over the years. Something like that. What is it? That. Okay? But I can't even remember how to play it single notes now, but that was it. And this idea of playing the open G and open E string, so I could, instead of doing that, I could go and play the kind of like a piano player would have the sustain pedal down and get a rub. And that way I can also shift positions. So what I do when I'm thinking about solos, absolutely 100%, is thinking what chord am I playing over? And not just what chord, like A major. I'll be thinking what type of A major is it? So anybody who studies with me will have heard this before, but you've got to think about the fact that there's 3 major scales and 3 minor scales, and then you've got your half diminished ideas, which are very handy for your for playing over dominant stuff. So don't neglect your 7th position of the modes. But the idea being that, let's say we were taking a tune like Shakedown Street, which is out of C major and based out of the Dorian, the minor 2. So we're doing. Treat this like home base, so it's tempting to say it's out of D Dorian, right? And in a way it kind of is, but when we think about it, we want to pardon me, I have to confirm a student here. The idea is that we have to think about it more like we're playing out of the 2 of C, okay? So the idea is that, funny enough, when we go, we're going to be going to the G chord, okay, which is actually the 5 chord of C, right? Right? And then into. Now, when we come up to this F major 7 chord, a lot of times my students will go like this. F major 7, of course, I play major, and they go the major scale. They play that B flat. No bueno. Got to get to the B natural. Nope. Yes. So think F Lydian over top of that, because it's the 1, 2, 3, 4th chord out of C major, and C major has a B natural in it, not a B flat, okay? So we're still playing the modes of C major, even though we don't even play over a C major chord the entire song until we get to the dominant chord in the chorus. You know, the nothing shake this sweet. Into the D Dorian sound. So over top of the F, don't go. Okay, so that means up top we're going to be doing this sound. Likewise over the E minor chord, don't play a 9th like you would if you were normally playing just like a Pink Floyd E minor chord. Over the E minor chord that comes after this F major 7, because when you think about what kind of E minor chord it is, it's the 1, 2, 3. It's a Phrygian minor, okay? So you want not again. We want to include the F, not the F sharp. Okay, because there's no F sharp in C major. That would make the whole song out of F instead of out of C, right? G instead of out of C. Okay, so likewise, when we come down, we're playing out of D Dorian. So D Dorian, G mixo, F Lydian, and E Phrygian over the top of those chords. Now, oddly enough, I don't really like the sound of playing the Phrygian over top of the E minor 7 chord there. I tend to just play just a bog standard E minor pentatonic scale. So that's just, you know, chef's choice, I guess. And then we've got the descending parallel, that kind of, and that little trick is kind of a fun thing where you can go kind of come back down, you know. So out of E minor, E flat minor into D, so E minor, right? So that's what's important about understanding your modes and how the chords are built out of this stuff. So I always try to think about what type of chord I'm playing over. Okay, to circle back to your question, Alex, is if I'm thinking modally in addition to chordally, right? I think about what type of chord I'm playing over. Am I playing over an F chord? Yeah, okay. Is it F major? Yes. If so, is it F Lydian, F Ionian, or F Mixolydian? Those 3 majors. Or do I want to hear more of the shared tones of all 3 of those modes, which a lot of my students don't recognize that each of those are 7-note scales: Ionian, Lydian, and Mixo. Okay, those all have 7 notes in them. So, you know, But we always talk about the pentatonic scales, which have 5. And oddly enough, the major pentatonic is included in each of those. So 5 of 7 of each of those notes is the pentatonic. So you can, when in doubt, you can always opt for playing major pentatonic over a major chord. It will always sound good, okay? And then you can kind of hedge, if you're looking for it, you can kind of noodle towards it and see whether or not the flat 7 sounds better or the major 7 sounds better, and then that'll give you some indication as to whether or not you're working over a dominant chord if you can't hear that just yet. The other thing you want to do is play against static chord jams. So if we set up just something where we're playing something more like, so this way, like taking a loop and going and creating just something where, and then working on flat 7 works to create that tougher sound against the dominant chord. At that point, then you can start to maybe experiment with changing that and look at a 6th chord and start thinking about how the sound of playing major pentatonic against that works. Let's do it in G. 1, 2, 3. So if we did 1, 2, 3, 4. Now G6, right? Experimenting with playing more major pentatonics over top of different sounds. Now, granted, you know, that kind of has a non-committal sound to it actually, because we're omitting the 7th and the 7th and the 4th most of the time when we play major pentatonics. But it is a nice way to stay safe if you're unsure as to what's the right thing to imply over top of a particular song's harmony. All right. So that's how I tend to approach things, Alex, if you're wondering. And I'm not sure, I guess there's not too many more, I don't know if there's more to discuss, but you know, what kind of sound are people using generally? Do most of you guys use mild overdrive, high gain, clean? What are you guys all single coil players? Who's out there? What are you playing? You know, get involved if you want to share. I have curiosity about what folks are using these days. Because I have some students and they're like, you know, pretty much all playing Strats, or some of them have some custom-made like hippie sandwich guitars that are kind of more tuned into the expand on utilizing. Oh, sure. Okay, let's talk about. Yeah. Okay, Victor. Let's talk about how to play the 7th mode against a dominant chord. First things first, let's look at how that would work. If we were talking about, let's look at the key of D. Okay, D major 7. Okay, so that would make our triads that we would be doing when we climb up the major scale 1, 3, 5, major 7, add 9, right? Okay. So that's, let me ditch that tremolo, that makes it hard to kind of hear it. Okay, so that would be your do, re, that's going to be a minor chord, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, half diminished. Okay, and then back to the, so what we're talking about doing is playing this arpeggio over this chord. Sorry, this chord. Sorry, I forgot which key I was in. So A7, okay, as the jam. I'm playing C sharp minor flat 5 over top of it. Okay, so just to be clear, Victor, have you followed that? Can you give me a yes if you understand where I'm coming from with that? I know there's a lag, so I'll wait. So that's our 5 chord, and we're going to be playing the 7th mode of the scale of that of its parent key. So we're still staying relative to the parent key of whatever we're talking about. So over a dominant chord, you understand. Okay, good. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to be playing over A, but we're going to be using the 7th mode. So let's set up like a nice little A7 jam. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we all can see that what we would be kind of most tempted to do, okay, would be to play right? That kind of sound, right? Okay, great. That's a dynamite sound, okay? We might even think about playing a pentatonic over that, major pentatonic, okay? Okay, but what very few people would think about doing is playing this Locrian, okay? Okay, so when we get to the arpeggio shapes that I like to teach are these 2-1-2, okay, arpeggios, 2 notes, 1 note, 2 notes, 1. So if we look at the 1 chord, the D chord, we hear over the 2 chord, we can hear a minor 7 chord, or we can even add the modal flavor of that flat, that natural 6. Phrygian tonality. Over top of that F chord, sorry, G chord, we're looking at Lydian. We can play the generic same first position shape, but that doesn't include the raised 4th, which adds so much of the Lydian's flavor to it, so we can find another fingering like the 6th here. Okay, when we get to the 5, we're going to be able to add. We can play up. So that's going to be 1, 3, 5 of our 5. 1, 3, 5 flat 7 root. Right, we can add the 9. Still going 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, and when we get up to the 6th chord, it's going to be just or. That way we get the 9 and the flat 3 rubbing a little bit. Now we're coming to the business that we're here to discuss. Okay, Victor, I'm sorry it took a little while. Okay, but we're coming up to our minor 7 flat 5 chord. Okay, so that would be the 7th mode. Okay, so you can see it's starting on the C sharp, and let's take it down an octave so we can see a little bit more what we're talking about. We've got the C sharp, okay, minor 7 would be minor. That's our minor third. The flat 7 and the flat 5. So C sharp, minor 7, flat 5. That's called a half diminished chord. Okay, so if that is the root chord in a song, if we heard that C sharp as the thing and we were hearing, you're damn right, we don't get a lot of tunes where that's the home bass, that's C sharp. But what we do get is an awful lot of tunes where we're having a dominant chord playing in the bass, and we can look at this type of harmony. Now, let me turn down a little bit so you can hear what I'm saying a little bit better. But here's our A7 groove that we set up so many moons ago before long-winded Irish me decided to start yakking. Here it is. So if we're looking at that A, we're going to add the third, the flat 7, the 9, and the 5th. And some of you may recognize this chord as the chord that is often used in the song Stormy Monday, okay? And that's an important thing to realize, is that this chord right here is used often as the inversion of our A7 chord. There's the third of the A7, the seventh of the A7, the 9 of the A7, and the 5th of the A7. So watch this. If we do 3, 4, or up here, right? Sometimes it's easier to recognize the sound when we think about it like this. Just like one of these little ninth chords, right? All right, but we're learning it like that. So the way we would play arpeggios is based out of that Locrian mode. So that would be 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. So let's look at that, right? Once we play that over top of the A. So listen, I've got to go and let somebody into my house to do a little bit of work, but I will not be back actually. But hopefully that's good enough for everybody to get started for today, and go forward and study, and please check back. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to get lessons from me, obviously you reach out to me at jack_divine@hotmail.com. And if you want to just keep looking out for opportunities to tune in, then just hit the bell icon under my channel, and that'll alert you whenever I go live, which is totally unpredictable, catch as catch can kind of opportunity. However, I am considering just offering these kind of office hours less to the public, and actually maybe offering. Oh, you're very welcome, Victor. My pleasure. I'm thinking about actually doing a $1 a month subscription for my channel. I'm not sure what the general take on that would be, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking about doing, because I am spending an awful lot of time here, and it would be great if people could help just a little bit, because it's time away from other opportunities for me. So, but I really do appreciate all the viewership and subscriptions and all that stuff. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to sign off, and I'll see you soon. And like I said, please stay in tune and stay positive. All right, peace.